Before we begin, I must offer a serious warning. The story ahead contains disturbing details of abuse and trauma. These are not stories from fiction, but the sworn testimony of a woman who alleges unimaginable suffering. My responsibility is to tell this story with honesty and clarity, but also to prepare you for its darkness. The content ahead deals with themes of captivity, coercion, and violence. Please take care of your emotional well-being as you watch. This is a story about justice. A federal trial with life-altering consequences for everyone involved. If you choose to continue, let us move forward together, with awareness and compassion, into the difficult truth of what happened in that courtroom. For those who may not be familiar with the names at the center of this storm, let's take a moment to understand who they are. Sean Diddy Combs, also known by his past stage names Puff Daddy and P. Diddy, is a giant in the world of music and entertainment. For decades, he has been more than just a rapper. He is a producer, a fashion designer, and a powerful businessman who built an empire. He founded Bad Boy Records, launching the careers of artists like the Notorious B.I.G, Mary J. Blige, and Usher. His influence has shaped the sound and style of hip-hop and R&B for generations. To the public, he was the ultimate symbol of success, a charismatic figure known for his lavish parties and his relentless drive. On the other side of this story is Cassandra Ventura, known to the world simply as Cassie. She entered the music scene in the mid-2000s with her hit song Me and You, a track that quickly climbed the charts and made her a star. With her unique look and smooth voice, she was seen as a fresh and exciting new talent. Soon after her rise to fame, she signed with Diddy's Bad Boy Records. She was not just an artist on his label, she became his muse and his long-term girlfriend. For over a decade, their relationship was in the public eye. They were a power couple, seen on red carpets and in fashion magazines, seemingly living a life of glamour and success. Their story, as it was presented to the world, was one of mentorship and romance. Diddy was the powerful mogul who had discovered and nurtured a promising young artist. Cassie was the beautiful and talented singer who stood by his side. They collaborated on music, traveled the world, and became a fixture in pop culture. Many saw their relationship as an aspirational one, a blend of love and professional partnership. The public image was carefully curated, projecting an aura of wealth, influence, and unshakable confidence. Behind the velvet ropes and the camera flashes, however, a very different story was allegedly unfolding, one that would remain hidden for years. This public perception is precisely what makes the current trial so jarring for so many people. It forces us to reconcile the image of the celebrated icon with the portrait of the man being painted in a federal courtroom. It also recasts Cassie's story not just as a singer or a girlfriend, but as a woman who allegedly survived a decade of escalating control and abuse. The trial asks us to look past the platinum albums and the fashion lines and to confront the harrowing reality that Cassie claims was her life. It is the story of a mogul and his muse, but a version far darker than any of us could have ever imagined. This is not a civil dispute over money or a simple disagreement between two people. This is a federal criminal trial, one of the most serious legal proceedings a person can face. Sean Combs is not just being accused, he has been indicted by a grand jury and is standing trial in a Manhattan federal court. The charges against him are severe and carry the potential for a life sentence in prison. He is facing 5 felony counts, including racketeering conspiracy, 2 counts of sex trafficking by force, and 2 counts of transportation for the purpose of prostitution. These are not just words, they represent a pattern of alleged criminal behavior spanning nearly 2 decades. The central accusation is that Diddy operated a criminal enterprise. The prosecution, led by the US government, argues that he used his power, fame, and resources to manipulate and abuse people for his own sexual gratification and financial gain. The racketeering charge, often associated with organized crime, suggests that this was not a series of isolated incidents, but a coordinated, ongoing operation. The government claims that Diddy and his associates worked together to recruit, control, and exploit women and others. It alleges a system designed to silence victims and protect the enterprise at all costs. This is the framework for the entire case. The sex trafficking charges are particularly grim. The prosecution alleges that Diddy used force, fraud, and coercion to make Cassie and other women engage in commercial sex acts against their will. This wasn't about a consensual lifestyle, as the defense claims. The government's case is built on testimony and evidence showing that victims were drugged, threatened, and physically assaulted to ensure their compliance. The indictment details how Diddy allegedly filmed these encounters, using the recordings as a tool of blackmail to keep the women trapped. The trial is designed to prove that a pattern of this horrific behavior existed, and that it was directed by Diddy himself. Since his arrest in September 2024, Diddy has been held in custody without bail. The judge deemed him a flight risk and a danger to the community, citing concerns that he might try to intimidate or harm witnesses. His defense team, led by attorney Mark Agnifilo, has vigorously denied all charges. They argue that the relationships were consensual and part of a swinger lifestyle. They have also attempted to discredit Cassie by pointing to the multi-million-dollar settlement she received after filing a civil lawsuit in 2023, suggesting her testimony is motivated by money. The stage is set for a legal battle that will determine whether the powerful mogul is a victim of false accusations or the mastermind of a dark criminal empire. When Cassie first met Diddy, she was a young woman on the cusp of stardom. Their relationship began with all the promise of a fairy tale. He was the powerful, charismatic producer who believed in her talent, and she was the artist who looked up to him. In the beginning, she testified, she was in love. He showered her with affection and opportunities, and she felt like she had found a partner who would protect her and champion her career. She moved into his world, a whirlwind of luxury, fame, and excitement. To the outside observer, it seemed like she had it all. But Cassie told the jury that this dream quickly began to curdle into a nightmare. The control started subtly. According to her testimony, it began with him dictating what she wore, who she could talk to, and where she could go. This soon escalated into complete financial dependency. He controlled her bank accounts and her career, leaving her with no resources of her own and no way to leave. The love and mentorship she had once cherished slowly twisted into a relationship of ownership. She described a life lived under constant surveillance, where her every move was monitored. The man she had fallen in love with, she explained, was being replaced by a controlling and possessive figure who demanded total obedience. The emotional and psychological control then gave way to terrifying physical violence. Cassie recounted numerous beatings over the course of their decade-long relationship. She described being punched, kicked, and stomped on. One of the most damning pieces of evidence presented was a 2016 hotel surveillance video that allegedly shows Diddy chasing her down a hallway, grabbing her, and violently assaulting her. She testified that after these beatings, he would often hold her captive in hotel rooms, refusing to let her leave until the bruises on her face and body had faded. This cycle of violence and forced isolation became the horrifying new normal of her life. Her journey, as she laid it out for the jury, was one of gradual entrapment. What began as a loving partnership devolved into a state of captivity where she felt she had no escape. Every aspect of her life, her finances, her friendships, her physical safety, and her career was allegedly in his hands. The love she once felt had been replaced by a deep and abiding fear. She was no longer a partner but a possession, trapped in a golden cage built by the very man who had promised to make her dreams come true. Her testimony painted a harrowing picture of how a love story can become a story of survival. When Cassie Ventura took the witness stand, the entire courtroom fell silent. Speaking in a clear and steady voice, she began to detail the horrors she allegedly endured. One of the most shocking parts of her testimony focused on parties Diddy called freak-offs. She told the jury these were not consensual events. She described being drugged, often without her knowledge, and then forced to engage in sexual acts with male escorts while Diddy filmed everything. She said he would keep these tapes and threatened to release them to the world if she ever tried to leave him or disobey his orders. This was the ultimate tool of control, a constant threat hanging over her head. The testimony then took an even darker turn as Cassie described a secret tunnel beneath Diddy's mansion in Los Angeles. She explained that it was hidden behind a false wall in the house. This was not a wine cellar or a storage area. She described it as a place of punishment and torment. She testified that on one occasion she was locked away in a lightless, soundproofed cell deep within this tunnel. For 7 days, she was held in this darkness with only a wooden bench to sleep on and chains on the wall. She was given minimal food and water, an experience she said was designed to break her spirit completely. While describing the tunnel, Cassie shared an even more haunting detail. She testified that she saw other people down there. In another room within the secret passage, she saw men and women who appeared broken, drugged, and empty. They were, in her words, like shells of people. This part of her testimony was crucial for the prosecution, as it suggested that what happened to her was not an isolated incident, but part of a larger, organized system of abuse involving multiple victims. The image she painted was of a hidden dungeon where people were held against their will, a horrifying secret buried beneath a palace of fame and fortune. Throughout her days on the stand, Cassie remained composed, even when recounting the most painful moments. When the prosecutor asked her why she was finally speaking out, her answer was powerful and direct. She looked toward the jury and said, "Because it's not just about me anymore, because he hasn't stopped, because if someone else gets dragged into that darkness and never comes back, I have to speak." Her words hung in the air, transforming her testimony from a personal account of survival into a public plea to protect others from suffering the same fate. It was a moment that defined the moral stakes of the entire trial. Cassie Ventura's testimony did not stand alone. The prosecution built its case by calling a series of other witnesses whose stories echoed and reinforced her claims. These voices belonged to other accusers, former employees and friends who said they had witnessed the abuse firsthand. Multiple other women, identified in court documents by pseudonyms like Jane and Mia, took the stand. They told their own stories of being drugged, sexually assaulted, and financially trapped by Diddy. One woman, Jane, testified that the abuse she suffered continued as recently as June 2024, while Diddy was already under federal investigation, suggesting a pattern of behavior that never ceased. Dawn Richard, a singer from the group Danity Kane, told the jury she personally witnessed Diddy beat Cassie back in 2009. She also testified that Diddy later made a death threat against her for what she had seen. Brianna Bonabongalan, a close friend of Cassie's, gave a terrifying account of Diddy's rage. She testified that he threatened Cassie with a knife, and that he once dangled Bongalan herself over the balcony of a 17th-story apartment. These accounts painted a consistent picture of a violent and volatile environment. The corroborating evidence went beyond personal accounts. The prosecution presented physical evidence gathered during federal raids on Diddy's properties. Agents reported finding multiple firearms, illegal drugs, and sex supplies that supported the allegations. The government also introduced hotel and travel records that matched the timelines of the alleged assaults. Furthermore, they presented video evidence, including the disturbing 2016 hotel footage and clips from the freak-off parties themselves. Witnesses also spoke to Diddy's alleged efforts to cover his tracks, which is a key part of the racketeering charge. A hotel security guard named Eddie Garcia testified that Diddy's team paid him $100,000 for the surveillance footage. Other witnesses testified that Diddy or his associates had attempted to pay them for their silence, a classic example of obstruction of justice. Each piece of testimony and evidence was like a thread, and together, the prosecution sought to weave them into an undeniable tapestry of a criminal enterprise built on fear, violence, and intimidation. The atmosphere inside the Daniel Patrick Moynihan Federal Courthouse in Manhattan has been incredibly tense. Every day the public galleries are packed with journalists, legal experts, and curious members of the public, all leaning in to hear every word. Because there are no cameras or electronic devices allowed in the courtroom, the world outside relies on the detailed reports from those inside. This creates an old-fashioned sense of courtroom drama where the spoken word carries immense weight. The tension is palpable, especially during the most graphic parts of the testimony. You could hear a pin drop as Cassie described the secret tunnel or the forced parties. The judge, Arun Subramanian, has had a difficult job maintaining order in such a high-profile and emotionally charged case. He has had to issue stern warnings to the courtroom on several occasions to maintain the necessary decorum. At one point, he even threatened to have Sean Combs removed from the proceedings for allegedly trying to make eye contact and interact with members of the jury. This moment highlighted the immense pressure in the room, with the defense and prosecution watching every move and the defendant himself under a microscope. The weight of the trial seems to press down on everyone present. Outside the courthouse walls, the trial has become a major cultural event. The hashtag Diddy trial has trended consistently on social media platforms, with millions of people following the developments and debating the details. It has ignited a fierce and widespread public conversation about power, abuse, and accountability in the entertainment industry. People are dissecting every piece of testimony, sharing their opinions, and offering support for the accusers. The intense public interest shows that this case is about more than just one man. It has touched a raw nerve in our society and forced a reckoning that many feel is long overdue. For the witnesses, especially Cassie, testifying under this intense scrutiny must be incredibly difficult. They are not just speaking to a judge and jury, they are speaking to the entire world. Every pained expression, every moment of hesitation, is being watched and analyzed. The courtroom is a pressure cooker, where the emotional weight of the past collides with the immense pressure of the present. This public stage makes their bravery all the more remarkable. They are not just confronting their alleged abuser, they are doing it with the whole world watching, adding another layer of complexity to an already agonizing process. In the end, this trial is about so much more than the rise and fall of a celebrity. It's about the incredible courage it takes for a survivor to speak their truth, especially when that truth is aimed at one of the most powerful men in the world. Cassie Ventura's decision to take the stand, to relive her deepest traumas in front of a jury and the public, is an act of profound bravery. Her testimony, and that of the other accusers, has peeled back the curtain on the dark side of fame, revealing a world where power can be used to silence and control. Her fight is not just for her own justice, it is a fight for every person who has ever been made to feel powerless. This case serves as a powerful symbol of hope for other survivors of abuse. When someone as well known as Diddy is forced to answer to these kinds of charges in a federal court, it sends a clear message: no one is above the law. It tells victims everywhere that their voices matter and that they can be heard. For too long, the rich and powerful have been shielded by their status, their wealth, and their teams of lawyers. This trial challenges that reality. It represents a potential shift in our culture, a move toward a world where accountability is not just a concept, but a consequence, regardless of how famous or influential someone is. The outcome of this trial will have repercussions that extend far beyond the walls of the courtroom. It has forced a national conversation about consent, power dynamics, and the responsibility that comes with influence. It asks us to question the systems that allow abuse to flourish in plain sight and to consider our own role in holding powerful people accountable. Whether Sean Combs is found guilty or not, this trial has already changed things. It has empowered more people to speak out and has shown that even the most deeply buried secrets can eventually be brought into the light. Ultimately, Cassie's courage has given this story its true meaning. Her testimony was a powerful declaration that the truth is worth fighting for, no matter the personal cost. She stood up not just for herself, but for anyone who has ever been trapped in darkness, offering a glimmer of hope that justice is possible. This trial is a landmark moment, a reminder that the pursuit of truth is one of the most important journeys we can undertake, both as individuals and as a society. It is a story about the enduring strength of the human spirit and the powerful idea that even one voice can be enough to shake an empire.